little timer at the back of my room. It's always on 10-minute cycles. Whenever I am at like anxiety level or starting to feel insecure or getting all PTSD over my stalker, I just walk into my workroom and I'm going to give myself 10 minutes off. And I'm going to do body movement, or I'm going to do meditation, or I'm going to draw. And that timer is always on because it's my little doorway, like where I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I have a lot to do, but I'm going to get into my room and move my hips.
You're listening to Bombshell Brunches, where your hosts Raquel Rodenberg and Christina Lau sip and spill with badass babes every Tuesday morning.
Oh, happy Tuesday, my darling.
Happy
Tuesday.
Cheers.
Oh, okay. Rose and Thorn. Let's do it. Let's get straight in here.
Yeah,
it's week 2. We should be pros now at this.
Oh, my God. You first.
Okay. Rose, I mean, come on. We launched a podcast. We launched this podcast, and that's just a big fucking rose. I'm also filming a short film this week. I've just, nominated myself to stay on the board of directors for Music BC. I'm about to move home. I found tenants, which is great. They're lovely. And I'm going away on a girls' spa trip.
Nice.
A very COVID-friendly one. They're very, very careful at this resort. So we're going to go away in the province of British Columbia and have a great time. And my thorn, I think my thorn right now would have to be that I'm terrible at painting. I'm really bad at it, and I'm trying so hard to not get stuck in all the tiny little details of things and all that sort of stuff. So that's my kind of thorn, but in a week it's not going to matter, so that's fine.
Exactly. So my thorn, I'm going to start with thorn today. My thorn is just that I've been so busy, which is okay. I'm not against being busy, but I've been so busy that just general things have been neglected. Like my house is a mess. If I was to turn this camera and you could see the rest of my room, it would just make you cry. It makes me want to cry.
Oh, snap.
It's so bad. It's so bad. And I can't think when things are cluttered, but I don't have enough time to clean. So I keep doing this thing where I'm like, do I need to think more or do I need to clean more? And which one is more important? Which one will take more time? And I have deadlines, and I go to school full time and I'm working 3 days a week, and we launched a podcast, which is amazing.
We launched a podcast.
Oh my gosh, we launched a podcast. This was like, for anyone else out there who isn't super close with us, this has taken us like 6 months to get off the ground. So it's been a ton of work, and we've had so many amazing people who've kind of joined hands and helped us launch this and make it a success. And we're so excited with what we're putting out there. So it's really, really, really exciting.
Michelle was amazing. I know. Michelle was amazing. Episode 1, if you didn't listen, rate it. We want to hear your feedback. And episode 2, holy shit, Kinnie Starr is incredible. She is. She's been on my mentor list, and someone that I've wanted to speak to in depth for a long time. So if you haven't seen The Social Dilemma, not to give too much away about the episode, but I do think that we're having really important conversations about our digestion of social media, about how we use it, how we are online, on screens. And Kinnie is the perfect guest for you to listen to if you have been feeling disconnected, even though you've been online. If you've been feeling like you haven't been connecting with nature, if you have been feeling like you're the only person of your kind in a room or in a space, please listen to this episode. It's going to be just wonderful.
Yeah,
I mean, you are listening. We're here. You're listening to it. So welcome, I should say.
It is an amazing episode. I think it's very timely considering that Thanksgiving has just passed. we kind of talked about this earlier, but a lot of people are not able to get together with their families this year. So that's been very difficult. Maybe they are going on social and that's the only way they're communicating to each other. We also talk about safety online in this episode. So I think that's a really good topic to look at. Really important right now as we're all spending a lot more time online.
And we talked about Thanksgiving, and one of the things that I've been really doing of late, and we should all be doing all the time, is just educating ourselves, because we're in Canadian Thanksgiving and it's different to American Thanksgiving. And the whole concept of Thanksgiving itself has been kind of a tradition in North America. I'm not from here, but I know that it's a really big holiday. But there are some people who don't celebrate for cultural reasons, because they just flat out disagree with the concept of Thanksgiving. And I would encourage all of us to spend some time looking at all the different facets of this holiday. I mean, don't obviously drill too deep down and not have whatever good time it is that you're ready to have. A day off is a day off at the end of the day. You and I need that day off right now.
We certainly do.
But, right now, and I think Kinnie's episode's really important for us to kind of, it really reminded me of some of the things that I admire the most about her, which is that she questions the norms. She questions what something means to her, and she doesn't just let society dictate it. And I think we're in a really exciting time where we can all afford to do that. So if you've got some reading to do, go do that reading, babes. Well, I have to say that I was over the moon when Kinnie said that she would jump on and have a chat with us. I've had the pleasure of knowing Kinnie for probably almost 5 years. And your reputation precedes itself. So I knew about Kinnie Starr. I think a lot of you do know about Kinnie Starr. But I had the pleasure of getting to know her when we worked on the Canadian Songwriter Challenge together. And I was producing that event, and Kinnie was one of the mentors. So we have a lot of similarities. I think she was actually one of my mentors when I was participating in the Canadian Songwriter Challenge the first time around. And one of the things that sparked for me was, and I've told Kinnie this, was when I presented the song that my friend Erin and I had written, a lot of people addressed it from a commercial viability perspective. Kinnie really, in no uncertain terms, told me to wave my weird flag and was like, I like that you're doing something different. I acknowledge that that's not an easy thing to do. I acknowledge that that's brave, and I think you should follow that path. And that was a lasting impression. And I think that's the path that Kinnie really provides in the public and forward-facing things that she does, is really advocates for you being authentic, grounded, and celebrating who you are. And so with that introduction, I'm going to launch into some questions, but I wanted to really just say thank you, Kinnie, for being a really big role model for someone like me too.
You're welcome.
So topic one, I want to talk about the importance of a personal brand, because you do this wonderful, I watch your Instagram stories. You're very personal about a lot of the things that have affected you, and you share those very generously with audiences, but you also constantly evolve. And so I wanted to know, with your personal branding, how much are you choosing to give to the world? And then how are you evolving, and are you evolving in real time? Is it reflective of that personal journey, or is it something external that's impacting you?
Well, I started in the industry before the term branding was everywhere. So I've kind of tried to keep the same ideas as I had at the beginning. But I am careful and selective about social media. Like I left Twitter and Facebook years ago, and I use Instagram, but I primarily use the story function because, of course, it disappears. So I just try to, I came into art making through graffiti.
Oh.
I came into, so before music was graffiti. Wow. That's how I learned how to rap, is because I was doing a lot of graffiti and silk screening for like punk bands and stuff. And so I had a lot of free time, and that's how I just rapped for fun. So my aversion to media culture and standardization culture, like a lot of the graffiti that I used to do was like anti-media graffiti, like Televalium sedates you. I had a big logo of a television, and I was always reminding everyone in my circles, I was like, you should not be glued to the media. You should be thinking for yourself. You should be challenging your own brain. And so I kind of got sucked into the internet when the internet started, like everybody, because I was like, whoa, I can research anything. This is amazing. But now I learned from people like Jaron Lanier and Zadie Smith and Shoshona Zuboff and all these pioneers in like Jaron Lanier is a pioneer in virtual technology, and he's calling for a total rewrite of the internet as we know it because of the commodification of behavior. And so what I've learned to do, and this is branding, like as it would be called in the modern era, is I've learned to just try to protect myself. So not be all over Twitter and all over Facebook all the time, because because I had a stalker for 3 years and they're in jail now. And I was really reminded how much we can be coerced if we are using the internet all the time. And so for me, I guess my branding is like, I try to be truthful in my stories. I try and keep I block a lot of people from my stories. So it's only people that I can trust is in there. If anybody comes at me about my family, my sexuality, my race, my parents, they're blocked right away, because that's what my stalker did, is they studied me and they came at my family. Whoa. And yeah, so I'm just really careful now. I've really learned my lesson. I've learned that from being out at the front, you are perceived as the enemy. So I am very, very careful now.
I really want to highlight the statement that you made, and I'd love to know again who it was that said it, the commodification of behavior.
Yeah, so Jaron Lanier is one of the earlier innovators of virtual technology, and he's a Silicon Valley guy and a musician, and he really turned my mind onto, and I was already noticing it in the way people functioned, especially because I do a lot of mentorship. I was already noticing a lot of new artists were like, well, how do I get seen? And like, for me, because I started in graffiti and I was like the only woman doing beat programming in any hip hop circles, the last thing I wanted was to be seen. So I was always like, for me, I was like, to work, we need to be private. So in internet language, we are encouraged to expose everything all the time. And for me, that commodifies our behavior. And you see it in people. People are like, oh, this is something good for it. Hang on, I just got to post this on, hang on, I got to post this on Instagram. And it's like, that is, I feel like it's forcing us to think about ourselves as a product rather than to work on our craft.
I couldn't agree more, and I'm laughing because I'm so guilty of it.
We all are.
I'm so guilty of that. I put my hands up.
Yeah, we all are, and that's the point. Like, the point isn't to disparage each other. The point is that I believe that we, and especially women, we need to protect ourselves.
And you know, the thing that I love about you saying all of this and then being one of those precious few that is allowed into your stories, please don't block me, I love them.
I'm not going to block you.
One of the things that I love about that is that you show authenticity while retaining very strong boundaries and being so articulate about those boundaries. So I really want to highlight.
Thank you.
Thank you, because I think a lot of our audience will be very grateful to know they're all creative centric, creative careers, whether it's music or film or marketing, but we're all pretty forward facing
Yeah.
We do. And I think it's really important. You said something, the work to work, we need to be private. And I think we need to remember that as not just, like you say, as people who were raised as women, we have a different set of things that we need to be careful of. I'm very grateful that you talked about your stalker. That kind of harrowing experience is unfortunate that it's much more heavy on our side as people who are raised.
I really I want to say too that like Zadie Smith, I mean she is a person who, like, I mean, she is just so bright and intelligent, and she won't use social media because, and I'm going to quote her here, she says that social media does not allow us the right to be wrong, and how we grow as people is by being wrong. So if I'm wrong about something, which I am all the time, and then I have thousands of people coming at me, and you know, I get there's a function in cancel culture. Obviously, there's some people that, you know, like it's too far tipped where people have too much power. But in terms of being a thinker and a creator, I want the right to be wrong. And if
I love that.
Right? It's so beautiful. She said it so eloquently.
I think especially for women.
Yes.
So I think a lot of times women are taught that you have to be perfect.
Yes.
And I was actually just talking to someone about this the other day, because we were talking about someone else that we were working with, and they said, oh, they're just a bit more safe. And I said, yeah, but that's normal. Women were taught to be safe because they're taught that you can't, like, you have to have absolute perfection.
That's right.
Or nothing. And for me, I mean, I was really lucky. I was raised differently. I was raised, it's totally okay to fall on your face.
Yeah.
And I do it all the time. But I really do. But, you know, because of that, I was able to jump leaps and bounds forward because I was okay with falling on my face.
Tripping.
And, right. And men do it all the time. And there's nothing bad about it. They go into sports, they try new ventures, they do this, they do that, they'll do all these things. And there's no fear with it because it's been taught to them that that's okay. Even dating, like they ask, you know, however many people on dates, and they're okay with being rejected. Women are not okay. Women are not okay with being rejected.
Last year I asked someone on a date. I think it was last year. For the first time, I asked them on a date, and my palms were sweaty, and I wrote what I wanted to say, and I was like, I do not envy anyone who is doing the asking.
Yes.
I don't want to ever have to do that again.
But think about the power that they then have, because they're not waiting for someone to choose them. They are taking the opportunity to go for what they want, rather than just, it's like going for your career versus just like, I'll sit here and whatever career decides it wants me, it'll take me.
Yeah.
You know, they have the harder job in that scenario, but they have the ultimate power.
You're right.
In that scenario.
You're right. I
so
just feel so sick doing it.
Totally.
Like, but it's because I don't do it. You know.
None of us do. None of us do. So, you know, I have a friend who's they just got a dating coach, and their dating coach, their first thing that they gave them, they said, we need you not to be afraid of rejection. So I want you, your first assignment is to go out and get rejected 14 times. Wow. If you get a number, that doesn't count. You're not going out there and trying 14 times. You're getting 14 rejections, and every non-rejection is you know, not counting towards that number. So I just sat there and I thought about it, and I was like, we all need to do this.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
We all need to do this.
I want to hear from a dating coach. I want a dating coach on this podcast.
Like, think about jobs you didn't go for. Think about, you know, albums you didn't release. Think about songs you didn't release. Like, all of these things because you were afraid it was going to be rejected. And I think what you were saying, Kinnie, about personal branding, you're a product of the times, right? Like the times kind of require or demand artists to be a bit of a personal brand, maybe not even a bit. They want to know who you are, but you're totally right. You're walking this fine balance of, okay, meet me here, but at a distance, because, you know, in a personal life where we come from these little communities where we would have known everyone in our community. Yes. So now we can't allow that to really come through on such a massive scale, because you're right. There are people in there that you may not want to include in your tight circle. So how do you find that balance? Like, how do you say, okay, this is something I'm okay with putting out there and I'm proud to put out there, and this is something that I need to keep for myself because of my personal safety, my personal self, being introverted, as we talked about before we started. How do you find that balance?
Yeah, I find it hard to choose what to post on Instagram. I have certain rules for myself. Like, I try not to post more. Like, sometimes I'll post like a couple times, like one day and then the next day. But in general, I try not to post more than once a week. Okay. But I mean, I've worked with record labels and they've hired social media people, and those social media people are pulling their fucking hair out with me, because they're like, we want you posting like every 20 minutes. And I'm like, I'm not that guy. Like, I'm just never going to be that guy. So it's just never going to work for me.
I'm not that guy.
So I've hired people who post for me, and they're like, Woman Crush Wednesday, here's a way to do the hashtag right. And I'm just like, I can't do that because I feel like such a fake fucker. Like, I'm just like, I can't fucking do that.
Yeah.
Right. So I try, like I say, I'm driven by being stalked. So I am still in a very like PTSD state from that. I'm very frightened. I don't post pictures of children, any children in my family, my nieces, all of that. They know my stalker and stalkers do not get access to my family. And I just try and post things that are these days that have impacted me in my life, because I try and use my Instagram as like a lifeline. So if I'm feeling low, I can look at stuff I post or that other people post that, like, for instance, like Ken Chin, who died recently from SNFU, that was worth a post for me. Because I remember being a child and seeing him flying through the air at punk shows and always wondering, like, how does he do it? Like, I was like, isn't he afraid to like break his arm? Because I've always been like bony and stuff. And I'm like, isn't he scared?
And so, actually, tell us a bit about Ken Chin, or Cheap Pig, right?
Yeah. I mean, he was just like, he was older than me. And there was bands like Beyond Possession was from Calgary, and SNFU, and all those guys kind of knew each other. I was younger than a lot of my friends, because I don't know actually how that happened, but I just had a lot of older friends in bands. They had cars and, like, you know, skate shops, drug dealers. Like, I really liked being in cars with stereos. So I sort of chose my friends by who had great stereos. and you know, I remember, I mean, SNFU, we would drive to Edmonton from Calgary to see them. And then they came to Calgary all the time, and they were kind of there was a few bands. Minor Threat is another one that sort of opened my mind to rebellion. Bad Brains is another one. And because I was, like, raised, my parents are not conservative, but they are middle class. They were both working, and they're pretty rebellious too. But, the punk rock scene and the metal scene it's just where I felt free. And so, Ken Chin, he was really kind of, I would say, the epitome of that. Like, he had no limits to his physicality on stage.
And I think that's something that you need, being, one of the very rare women to this day. in the music industry that is so multifaceted, that is in positions that others aren't. So I wanted to bring us over to that, because one of the constants to me that's really clear is how you've been a role model for other women in the industry.
Thank you.
And you've been very vocal about that gender gap. I remember watching Play Your Gender, which is a documentary that Kinnie was very heavily involved in. And it really highlighted some statistics, some really uncomfortable truths about the industry. And I wanted you to just give us a little overview and tell us about your involvement with it. What sparked you to create and then manage that project?
Sure. Yeah, that project, the origins of that project was through, I'm going to get NFB. The NFB approached me to do and asked me if anyone had made a Kinnie Starr documentary, and would I like to make a Kinnie Starr documentary. And I'm a really shy person, even though I can be on stage, but I just was like, I could see it was an opportunity, but I knew that I didn't want to be on camera all the time for however many years it would take to make the film. So I suggested instead that we do a feminist documentary and research a subject. So the original point of research was we were looking at the intersection between pornography and music, because there was a time period in the 90s when porn directors started to direct music videos. You can see Christina Aguilera's Dirty video is kind of an inception point for that. So that was the original research that we were going to do, was looking how did porn and music converge. But then that project fell off because the two producers on that concept got fired from the NFB. So I won't name any names, but those producers got dropped. And then a new producer, Sahar Yousefi, came on. And Stephanie Klattenberg came on as director, and we had to totally change the topic. And so we started looking at authorship and production, and we started researching the gap, that gap, because it's so huge, and it's very important to me that women produce. And when I say produce, I mean take a project from inception, hire the team, create the timelines, establish the look, establish the sound. Like, that's what I deem as a producer, someone who can start something and take it to the finish. And so I really wanted to make, because I know the producer label is very vague, but for me, that's what a producer is. So I wanted to make something where we got to look at all the contributions that women have made to music that have been undermined, and really statistically show with graphics how much of the backstory happens in sound making. So when you see the pretty girl singing, we don't know, most people don't know how much went into getting that into the public eye. So that's kind of what I wanted to have a look at, so that women know when they're like, I want to be a star. It's like, do you? Or do you want to create content?
I love that.
It can be both.
And why is it so deglamorized? One of the things that I love about my job and my career right now is, and you and I have spoken about this, is I love that I am working very passionately to glamorize the deglamorized industries.
Yes.
And, you and I both know the gender gap between male identifying and female identifying people in the music industry. It's, in broad strokes, it's 22 or 23 producers to one, male to female ratio. That and I'll get those statistics because we're having a conversation with Elisa at some point soon.
Good.
Raquel met Elisa the other day, and then yesterday again, and cool. Kinnie and Elisa is one of only two mastering engineers, mastering engineers who are women in Canada.
Yes.
And Kinnie and Elisa have worked together before. But what I wanted to say was, I just want to acknowledge and say thank you for taking the megaphone that was given to you and putting it to a greater cause. And I think it gave me chills when you said it, because I know very few people who will take that megaphone that someone hands to you and say, I would like this to focus on this. And the bravery that is required to do that is something that I would love for our audience to start feeling empowered to do.
Yeah, I mean, I was very advised not to do that. I was strongly advised to do the Kinnie Starr documentary. But I do think that in the end, my needs were served better too, because I got to be engaged at all these levels and meet all these amazing people. So it did serve me, like, because I was being advised, oh, this isn't going to serve your career, serve it. But I'm like, but since who? Like,
and I think that goes back to our first question on the personal branding, because I would say, like, just as you've said, your personal brand is, and I guess I see it very differently to what you might see it, what other people might see it as, but I see you as a mentor to so many emerging creatives. I see you as that person that is going to stand up and say something about a group of underrepresented or underserved peoples, and be really brave around that. And that to me is what your brand is. If you were to have a brand, it would be, you are an activist. You're not, I consider myself to be an advocate. I don't consider myself at this point to be an activist. And I don't know if I will change my mind, but I feel like what I do right now serves me and my community best. And I think that distinction for all of these babes who are listening and all of the people who are contemplating, what is my brand? What do I give to the world? Making tough decisions that other people don't agree with is never going to be easy, but it will be easier if you have a framework of your beliefs. And I think that you have a very strong framework of beliefs that you've articulated in a lot of your verbiage. If people can go and visit Kinnie's website, because it does change, but it's also very straightforward. It's like, this is what I believe in, and this is the thing that I want you to see. Yeah. And everything else can fuck off. Like everything I know so few people who don't even have that they won a Juno on their, like, you just don't even say it. You don't even bring it up. You're just like, well, you can choose to learn what you choose to learn, but here is what I'm deciding to give you. And that is great. Thank you. Yeah. So I think that with the Play Your Gender, with that film, the final question I have before I pass over to Raquel is saying, what would you recommend to emerging female creatives who are going into the production side or the technical engineering side? And I would like you to speak a little bit to what you gained from creating that documentary. So maybe you can talk about how you learned from it, and then what you would pass on to others.
Yeah, I mean, I really like research. So I really liked the research projects of that film. So that film probably, I think it was like a 5-year trajectory, sort of 3 years of study, 1 year of, pre-production and a very short cycle of production, and then 1 year of post. So I think that you have to, but I know myself, and I know that I like study. I know I'm a researcher, and I also know how much I love society. Even though I'm an introvert, people think, oh, you're an introvert, that means you don't like people. That it's totally the opposite. I love history, society, and everything. So for me, that fit of getting to research and clarify my worldview, and then put it, have a team, like a great director and a great producer. Mm-hmm. It was a dream come true. And I just think that women are really steered away from, we're really steered into thinking our place in music is to be like a dolly on stage dressing up with the pretty outfits, because it's what we see so much. Right. And I feel like there's so much joy in the research and production part of music making. And there's a lot of control. Like, man, when I'm a Logic user, I don't give a fuck about Pro Tools. So like, do you know what I mean? Like, and so people will be like, oh, well, let's do this project in Pro Tools. I'm like, no, like, because I love Logic, and so software becomes personal. It becomes an extension of you. You know what you like. That's how you start to feel safe in the industry. And so, yeah, I really want to stress that like those parts of music making, for me, it's like beat production and arranging and all that. I love it. I love the research component of taking songs apart and putting them back together. That's just me. But for other women, I feel like if we can ask our moms or our sisters or our brothers or the people who know us, like, am I happy when I'm like trying to put the dress on to go on stage? Does it make me happy? Like my mom, she was, she helped me to see, she was like, you're not happy as a performer. Like you lose 20 pounds every time you go on tour. Like right. This is not making you happy. And that's why, like right now, it's like I'm documentary. I'm doing like sound work for movies and galleries and stuff, because I don't want to be standing on the stage all the time.
And I think if you don't know what else is available to you, then it's very difficult. It's difficult. And I know that as an actor, I've had a lot of conversations with actors about this, where it's like, do you really enjoy what you do? Because what you do is not on set. What you do is audition. And if you don't, I have a great career coach, a number of them, but for the acting world, Jeb from Jeb Beach often says, auditioning is your career. That is your job. And if you don't like that, that's 80% of your time. Right. So, just like, I love that you said, does it make me happy? Does it make you happy to put on the suit that society has told you?
That's right.
Is the outcome, is the, and I personally love being on stage. But that doesn't mean, and I love dressing up and I love those things. Yeah. That doesn't mean all people who are raised as women only have that option, or all people who are raised as musicians only have that option.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to expand that even past just music. I think tapping into your community, it's not something done often enough to really ask, do I seem happy? Because sometimes it's hard to pull yourself out of your situation, especially when you are unhappy, to look and say, like, do I look like I'm having a good time? Yeah. You know me best. And also, I would say a lot of families and definitely in specific cultures, we're kind of raised to want the best for our kids. And oftentimes that means taking like a societal view of that. So like, you should be a doctor, you should be in sciences, you should do this. But if you were to pull it back a bit, and a lot of people feel pressures because their parents have put those pressures on them, or society or whatever. But if you were to pull that back a bit and ask those same people who care so much about you, do you feel like I really look happy? Do you feel like I'm living my best life right now? I think it would also take off a lot of that pressure, because it would pull them back and go, whoa, you're right. This isn't just about making money. This isn't just about, you owning a home in 10 years. This is this is about you living a good life. Yeah. I think that's like such a strong takeaway, even outside of just the creative world, but just for people. I wouldn't even say just women, for people.
Exactly.
I think that's a homework moment. I'm going to drop a bombshell homework moment. Everyone needs to go away and find 3 situations and ask your people, do I look happy?
Ooh.
Do I look happy in this? I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that.
I'm writing this down.
I'm going to, and I think that's such a great self exercise to be. And I have my older sister is amazing like that. She seems to intuitively just tell me whether I've asked her or not. That's the joy of having an older and a younger sister.
Yeah.
But yes, I think that's your homework, babes. Babes, you need to go away and ask that question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Kinnie. Oh, I love that. So Raquel, you've got a couple more questions as well for Kinnie. We could talk forever with you, but we're not going to because we can't.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be talking to you guys because the project that I'm working on as soon as I get out of here is so crazy. So yeah, I'm gonna absorb these last moments.
Yes, just a couple good moments. Share the energy. So I don't know how comfortable you are about talking about this, and we don't have to dig in at all if you don't feel comfortable. You did bring up a couple times over this interview having had a stalker.
Mm-hmm.
And I know when I was doing a bit of research on you, because this is our first time meeting, so before we actually met officially, I was doing some homework, and I know that you've released a song about it as well. And we're talking about how you had to really make a choice. You had to make a choice to become resilient and not to kind of basically fold in and give away your power.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine how difficult that must have been. It sounds like that had been going on for quite a while, and I know with the legal system it can be really difficult with that situation because oftentimes you can't really, there's no repercussions until something has happened. So I can't even imagine how scary that was for you. But how did you pull that strength out? I mean, I know you said you're more of an introvert, so I'm presuming you weren't finding that strength from outside sources. So how did you really dig down and say, like, this is me, this is my life, I'm gonna go for it, and I'm just gonna keep going, and I'm gonna let this play out? Or I don't even know if that's how you saw it at the time, but
no, I didn't. I mean, I'm still kind of in it. They have a 2-year they can't come near me for 2 years, and then they have a mandatory no firearms for 10 years. And I just took myself off of Facebook and Twitter. My record label, I know, still posts some stuff on my artist page on Facebook, but I don't look at the format because it just makes me so sick to my stomach. And they were studying me on Twitter too, so I don't go there. And I just have, I just think the world is a dangerous place, actually. And I knew that when I was young because my dad is a criminal defense lawyer. So, like, I remember being very young and being very aware that if you're brown or you're poor in Canada or you're an immigrant, you're going to jail. And if you're Native and you're standing in front of a judge, they're going to think that you don't belong anywhere. And so I knew that stuff, and I knew that the world was not safe, but now I just feel very differently about it. And I think that it's smart to be aware, like, not live in a bubble where you just think you can post pictures of your kids all over the internet and that's safe. Because, and I'm not just saying specifically children, I'm just saying, like, I think it's okay to have been slapped around a bit. Like, I guess I had to learn that lesson. So I think probably if you talk to me in 5 years, I'll have a little bit more perspective. But that stalker just got out of jail in the last couple weeks. I actually don't have a follow-up on it right this second.
So it's still raw.
It's still really, at least I know who they are because they presented anonymously for 3 years. So that was a really crazy time. And like, we didn't know, my family and I, we didn't know who it was. There was people under suspicion. We were always watching our back. So at least now we know who it is. That's a huge relief.
I mean, if I can jump into, and not to put words into your mouth, so stop me if I'm off, but I think you've created some very strong boundaries. And I think that you being a very authentic, what I see as a very authentic person who honors their art over everything else, and well, I mean, over everything else except family.
Yes.
And I think that when you do that, the natural byproduct is to exclude those things from your outer circles. So when you talk about your social media and any public facing things, and I can absolutely relate, for those people that know me on socials, my family, you will never hear more than my mother's voice. You will never see, and that has been from the beginning of me being on social media, unless you will see my sisters, but that is only because they are on social media. So they have made a choice to do that. But my parents, even if they say it's okay for me to post pictures of them, I never have, and I never will. And I think that that is a very important thing for our audience members to know, because some of you will have grown up in an era where you've always been on social media. Some of you will not have known what it was like to have a certain level of privacy. But I think, Kinnie, just coming around to what you've been going through, and how you have managed to continue to produce, to create, to stay positive, to be generous, to be a mentor, to be an activist. I think that you've really placed a strong boundary around how Raquel had described those circles that you come from, those innermost circles. And honoring that's great. And I think we should all be doing a better job of it.
I think we're allowed to not post everything. And, you know, women are encouraged in media. Like, if you think about Britney Spears' life.
Yeah.
And now think about John Mayer. Think about how much more we know about her than him.
Yeah.
This is bullshit.
I've never thought of it. I've never thought of that.
I sometimes think of that, and I'm like, how is it that dudes don't have to be like, guess what? I can't, you know, last time I masturbated, they don't have to reveal any of that shit. We have to reveal our sexual preferences, our racial identity, our age, like our weight. Fuck off.
Yeah.
Right? Like, why?
Yeah. Say it when you're proud of it. I think that's the thing.
Yes. Say it if you want, but don't be coerced into revealing everything about yourself and your children and it just drives me bonkers. Like,
yeah, I listened to one commercial once. It was a commercial, or it was some advertisement for something. And they asked a whole bunch of women to say, oh, how does this person look? And they showed women who were in their maybe 60s and 70s. And a lot of women said, she looks so great for her age.
Fuck.
And then they said, great, now let's just take out the verbiage for her age.
Yeah.
And I had never thought of it, because so many people had said to me, you look so great for your age, or don't worry, you don't look this age. And I used to say thank you. And now I say, actually, I feel my age and I love that. And whatever age that is one, irrelevant to somebody else for all intents and purposes. And two, I celebrate how old I am, because I've never been, I had never been 15 until I was 15. And then when I was done with that, I was done. Like, I didn't go, oh, I wish I could just stay as a 15-year-old, because what's the fucking point?
Yeah.
So, Yeah, I love that you brought that up.
I stayed 19 for 3 years, by the way. I told everyone for 3 years. I was 19. 19.
You look great for your age, though.
Yeah, you look great for your age.
I think that's great. And I think that is a really important note, especially in this day and age. I have a 15-year-old sister, so that's going to be really big for her growing up and her generation growing up. In elementary school, their entire schooling was on iPads already.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a complete different world. I just want to go into something that I thought was really beautiful. I was talking to Christine about this before we met. She said that you're very grounded in kind of some rituals and practices. And I personally wonder how much this may have helped you as well. She said you're very grounded in nature, dance, obviously music and drawing. So your art has really grounded you. Can you talk a little bit about that, about dance, about nature, and how you do that? Yeah,
Christina, that's so nice that you remember that about me. And I feel really very fortunate to have a very deep connection with the natural world. I do think all people have that, but I think it's kind of squeezed out of us if we live in cities too long, or maybe I guess different people get sidetracked. But I find some of the ways that I feel strong are through movement, through art making, especially beat making. Like, beat making saved me when I first started beat making. It's like headphones on and nothing can touch you when you're in that world. Like, I chose 15 years ago to leave cities because by that time I was, 10 years into the music industry, and I was just like, sick from being on stage, sick from being exposed, sick from everybody asking me who do you like, what do you want to, all of that invasive nature of the music industry. And now that I've been out of cities for 15 years, I can just safely say that it's how I feel like I'm able to be a better person. Like, because I can be a not very good person sometimes. Like, I can get trapped into thinking away from what I would consider my core, like feeling vain and feeling insecure. Maybe I'm starting to be mad at somebody about some stupid shit. So when I get into that state, I will just, like, that. When I first got onto this podcast, you probably saw me run and turn off my timer. I have a little timer at the back of my room. It's always on 10-minute cycles. Whenever I am at like anxiety level or starting to feel insecure or getting all PTSD over my stalker, I just walk into my workroom and I'm going to give myself 10 minutes off. And I'm going to do body movement, or I'm going to do meditation, or I'm going to draw. And that timer is always on because it's my little doorway, like, where I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I have a lot to do, but I'm going to get into my room and move my hips or my shoulders or whatever it is that I need to move for 10 minutes. Like, and nobody else can touch me. And that little ding is my permission.
I think we're going to have like homework with Kinnie Starr. The next thing is for all of us to make a timer. Take that.
Yeah, and timers, you can put them on your phone too, so they just ding every hour, so that you like shut your eyes, for example, like to relax your nervous system or whatever it is.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great piece of
it. Works.
Yeah,
I think so too. I completely understand what you're saying about feeling being in nature kind of brings you back to yourself, or your purest version of yourself.
Yeah.
I feel the same way. I'm a very hustle bustle person. I've got a lot on the go. And I would say at least every week, I kind of live out in a country area I live pretty close to my mom. She has 4 acres, so I can always escape there. But I find at least once a week, I need to just go to a forest.
Yeah.
I just go in a forest. I want like 3 hours.
Totally.
I like 10 minutes, but I want 3 hours.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
totally.
I just want to get lost in there. Like I just need the soil, the trees. In Japan, they call it forest bathing. So, yes. Right. So, you just need to cleanse yourself of all of the outside craziness and kind of recenter and refocus to see what's going on inside and what do you actually need to be doing.
Yeah.
And just kind of get back there. I think it's so important.
And the thing about the natural world too is that the natural world is always presenting awe. Mm-hmm. And awe is a function for neurological health, unlike many other functions. The function of awe in terms of brain health and mental health is unparalleled. And you can't get that sense of like, I went for a walk the other day and I was down there was like a bunch of pod of whales breaching at the bottom of my hill. Then I came back up and there was a flurry of woodpeckers. I've never seen them that low. They were all around my head. Just, and that's awe. Like for me, I was like, and then all of a sudden everything can clear. Because otherwise we're just, note taking and following our schedule and looking at COVID news and like, you can't feel okay in that situation.
Yeah. I love that. I love that analogy. And I want to highlight for our audiences, I'm going to put my hand up and say, as someone from Hong Kong, I am from a concrete jungle.
Yes.
So I'd just like to, and we are in the height of luxury right now for so many reasons for being in BC, British Columbia, and Canada. To those of our international audience members, I think it's really important to understand that you can find nature in whatever way works, but look, you have to go and find it. And for me, I wasn't allowed, I had this conversation with someone the other day, I wasn't allowed to stand on grass.
Wow.
Like we didn't have enough grass in Hong Kong. There were certain parks, we would go to a beach once a week, but we didn't have, it's a concrete jungle. That is what it is. And there are beautiful gardens and they've done some beautiful things with it. And I didn't feel like I lost anything from my childhood. I only recently discovered the joy that is not joyous of the grouse grind of grouse mountain, running up that mountain a few times a week. But I had to learn how to go into nature. So you two are very naturally grounded people. You've been brought up, and natural, I mean in the literal sense of
yes.
I am not. And I would like to say that is also okay. And you can find that connection to your nature that surrounds you at any point in your life. But I think that it takes some work. It took me, I will be going on my 3rd camping trip of my adult life in a few days. And it's uncomfortable. And I think that we need to be okay with the fact that in order to get that perspective and that awe from nature, some of us who are not naturally acclimatized or raised that way, I want to encourage you to keep going because it is worth it. And it has saved me in ways that I never knew. Climbing a mountain at the start of a day means, at 6:00 in the morning, I'm up that mountain with some friends, and I get to the top of that mountain, and no matter what happens to me for the rest of the day, I can say I climbed a fucking mountain. Yeah. It can't get much worse. Knock on wood.
Better. Can't get much worse.
No, it can't get much worse. Because if you've ever done the grouse grind, you will know that it is not a fun time. No one is cheerily moseying on up and hates each other. And like, why are we here? Why are we doing this? And then you get to the top and you say, I did that. And I put myself in surroundings that I was uncomfortable with, and that are so much bigger than I will ever be.
What a good note to end on. Oh my gosh.
So I want to say thank you to Kinnie. I want to just shout out your Instagram. because that's the only way that you will find Kinnie. You may or may not be allowed into her stories, so don't be offended.
Her website as well.
But yes, you're right. Thank you.
Yeah.
But go to it's kinniestarr.com, right?
I think it's kinniestarr.ca actually.
Oh, you can Google Kinnie Starr and it will come up.
Yeah.
And the Instagram is at Kinnie Starr, and Starr, Kinnie is with 2 N's and an IE, and Starr is STARR. She's twice the star of everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening, bombshells. In order to continue to elevate, subscribe and don't forget to click that little bell so you can get notified every time we have a new badass brunch. Until next time, stay focused, fierce, and fabulous.